So up next, we have a case study from Publicis Sapient on ability to access, which will discuss inclusivity and digital experiences.
So let's all welcome on stage VIESHAKA DUTTA, Director of DEI, and LAKSHMINARASIMMAN Raghavan, Group Vice President Technology from Publicis Sapient. A huge round of applause, please.
Thank you so much, and I'm very aware that we are standing between lunch and all of you. So, you've heard a lot about inclusion. I think lovely case studies, starting from very, very practical examples of spaces like airports, where we hadn't really thought about, or our expectations may be larger from organizations and especially MNCs than for more public spaces in India. But absolutely having so many examples, we felt that it might be a good idea to bring you some case studies and real examples of how organizations can truly make a difference on building bedrock of inclusion and ensuring that everything kind of becomes inclusive by design. Everything that I will share is with the disclaimer that we are still on the journey, work in progress. I love the part where we are working on it because I get to represent all my colleagues who are an integral and a very active group of people in this journey. With that, I am VIESHAKA DUTTA. My pronouns are she, her, her. We also talk about a little bit about what we are wearing for people with low vision. So I'm wearing a red ajrak sari with a black blouse. Thank you for giving me this time. I'm representing Publicis Sapient. We are a group of 20,000 plus passionate people working towards digital transformation solutions for our clients. We pick practically all kinds of problem statement from client across domain and provide what we think is a digital solution to transform the current state of affairs to somewhere where you feel more empowered and more. I would encourage all of you to also sometimes go online to check a little bit about our impact films, which talk not only about the technology and the digital transformation work, but truly about how it impacts people's lives, makes it easier. Having said that, what is inclusion? You heard a lot about different things. We are, just like what we do for clients, we are continuously customizing because we truly believe in equity being the game changer. And equity can be a difficult statement because it is beyond equality. Sometimes you would get questioned on positive discrimination towards diverse talent groups, where you will be working towards understanding unique challenges, sometimes person by person, and providing some kind of a support and solution that they may need to thrive in their space. So frankly, we feel that when we are looking at creating inclusive spaces within and beyond the organizational boundaries, we are really looking at building consistent experiences for diverse audiences, right? And these are audiences which are internal and external. There is so much being said about creating inclusion, space for diverse talent groups to thrive, being equitable. I just thought I will share with you some of the impact it has had on people from diverse group within our organization. So if you're ready to watch some stories, are we? Happy to watch? Okay. So I'll present to you three of our colleagues. We'll start with Disha Balal.
Hi, I'm Disha Ballad. My pronouns are she, her, hers. Today I'm wearing beige printed silk sari. I'm a project manager at Publicis Sapient. I'm mother of 2 children. I'm a professional Bharatanatyam dancer. Also, I like to travel. I grew up in a village in Karnataka, and my father was an agriculturist and mother was a teacher. I always wanted to become a doctor. However, I had to choose engineering because I could not afford medical education. I got my dream job. In some time, I got married. I took 2 maternity breaks to take care of my children. After having 2 children, I was not sure how to get back to work. I found it quite challenging. This is when I heard about career returning program at Publicis Sapient. I also thought this should have enough supporting system to enable women at work. In the interviewer shared that she herself is a career returnee with longer career break that made me think that even I can be successful. I joined Publicis Sapient a year ago. I joined this team of around 10 people where I am the only woman. Since I come from a career break, I had a lot of questions in mind. If I'll be given equal opportunities, do I need upskilling? However, within months' time, I was in meetings where I was presenting to senior leadership. My peers and supervisor has given me a lot of positive feedback. Also, I am recognized at work. This has motivated me a lot. At Publicis Sapient, we have a lot of trainings to upskill ourselves. I enrolled myself to RISE, where we touched upon a lot of aspects of leadership. It spoke about negotiation, networking, collaboration, problem solving, also work-life integration. I feel empowered. I feel I can be successful. I truly look forward for my career at Publicis Sapient.
Thank you. So this is a story of really focusing on integration and providing equity to people who join us from a program that we call Spring, which adds a spring to their steps is how we feel. I'll change tracks and talk about somebody from the LGBTQI community in an equity-based program that we call the Rainbow Internship. Let's listen to Jian, and you might have a
I am Jian Sharma. My pronouns are he, his, him. I am a trans man. I am wearing a pink shirt. I love to watch movies and dance. The biggest challenge of my life was my own identity. I was born as a girl and I was in school. I attracted toward my teacher who is woman and I was very confused. I could not share it with anyone, so I started writing. I used to write everything that I want to change in my life, that I want to do for myself. One day, my mother got the diary and she read everything, but we didn't speak anything about it. When I was in college, everyone told me to wear girls' clothes and called me tomboy. I felt very lonely and lost. I thought I should wait for some time, and after some time I spoke to my mother. I said I want to change myself. I want to change my body from female to male. She said, whatever you want to do, you can do, but do it yourself. I can only support you, but can't pay for your surgeries. My family has always supported me, so I ignored everyone and I did not like to talk to anyone. When I got a job, I was able to pay for transition and I started my hormone therapy and then I went for my surgeries. Then I joined Periphery. They give training to trans people. I got interview call from Publicis Sapient. I was very happy to be selected as intern. I met many trans people and people from LGBT community. I have always received a lot of support from my colleagues. I am very excited. I am handling a project independently and I am very happy. Now I have many friends.
Thank you. Jian is a part of a large cohort of interns we've hired every year. We've done about 50 to 60% already in the the last cohort we had to convert them as employees and not just have internships. Again, we'll be very happy to talk to anyone if you wish to have anything similar or want to have more, share our experience on LGBTQ advocacy. If you give me another 2 minutes, I'll share the story of Abhisar, who joined us from campus. So we actually go to campus not just to have our early career joinees, but also look for people with disabilities at every career level. So he joined us from campus in 2021 and
I am Avisar Wagmare. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I am wearing a rust-colored t-shirt with Kung Fu Panda on it, which says Inner Peace. I am a computer engineer and work with cloud engineering team at Publicis Sapient. I am a curious person and it excites me to take risks. For example, I love going on adventure travels, treks, and also dabbling in the stock market. I am also a person with visual impairment. While I was born able-bodied, during my grade 12, I met with a bike accident, and during the phase of my treatment, due to medical negligences by the doctors, I eventually had to lose my eyesight. This was a new challenge for me and my family, and we had to learn to cope up with this new situation. There were people who would go on making random comments and telling my family that I'm a liability for them. However, my family supported me and I completed my studies and pursued engineering. It was not an easy task, as a lot of people whom I went to for seeking help did not want to put in extra efforts, and at the same time they discouraged me from pursuing what I wanted to do. One of my professors actually called me and told me that engineering was not made for me and that there was no future for me in it. This actually enraged me a lot, and this made me even more determined to do what I wanted to do. Eventually, I completed my engineering and also joined in Publicis Sapient engineering team last year. I have found my leaders and colleagues to be very supportive and eager to learn about the challenges that I am facing, and they were also mature enough actually to understand my situation and work with me to overcome those challenges and increase my productivity within the professional environment. Today I am really happy that I am doing what I wanted to do.
Thank you. And believe me, I did not prompt him to say my t-shirt has a panda and says inner peace. He did. Just like in my backlog, I have a certain film I have to watch because another colleague who's a manager in the organization, again in the engineering team, has told me about a Marathi film that I must watch, which is a feminist film. And this is a person who loves watching films and is a person with complete blindness. And he actually told us the story of how he gets there, which I can share beyond the time that we have. I have a timer in front of me. So I'll hand it over to Narasimhan, our colleague from the engineering domain who can share more case studies around our work.
Thank you, Vishaka. Can everyone hear me? So my name is Narasimhan. Actually, it's Lakshminarasimman. There's a little bit of diversity in my name as well. I am actually wearing a blue blazer and a pair of ugly shoes and jeans. If you look at the whole topic, right, so when we're talking about inclusivity, invariably it turns out that it focuses on accessibility as well, right? So if you look at why, it is because of this, right? So if you look at accessibility is really an outcome, right? So if you include a diverse set of audience, work towards enabling your digital properties to be accessible for no matter who, right? I think that's what you will end up with, right? So you have about 1 billion people in the world, according to World Health Organization, that are having some sort of impairment. So how do we provide those consistent experiences for them? And then in the process, cater to the people of the world, right? So if you look at world population, it's about 8 billion people, right? So that is really how big of a deal is inclusivity, right? So more of a process in inclusivity and then with accessibility as an outcome. So in the next few slides, I'll try to cover a little bit of our accessibility work, and then we'll touch upon some case studies as well. So if you look at it, why is it a hard problem, right? So I started this journey about 15 years back. I was working for a retailer, and their CIO apparently had color blindness. He could not distinguish between red and green. And you all know about our status reports, right? So they indicate green and red. So we could not do that, and we had to adapt to that. So that got us thinking, at a very larger scale, right? So as to, if we are looking at it for a status report, how do we make our entire digital ecosystem sort of inclusive and accessible? Now, if you look at the other part of the problem, it can't be matrixed into this form that you're seeing, right? So there are different set of impairments, but then there is more, like for example, fear, right? So a lot of senior citizens, for example, are fearful of getting on the escalator, right? And you have places, malls and things like that, that have escalators but not elevators, right? So what does that do to that person, right? Is that person actually disabled, or is it bad design that makes them disabled, right? So it's most likely bad design, and the perspective that we would like to look at is design for that, blame the design more than the people interacting with the property, right? So that's what we look at. Now, naturally, I'm an engineer, I want to go and fix everything, right? So, so if you look at the tools and services that are available in the industry, I think someone referred to JAWS as a tool, right? So that you can actually, you will have to look at a person with vision impairment as to how they use JAWS. That's when you will understand how the interaction is taking place, and how can you really narrate what is on a web page, for example, effectively, so that you are able to convey what is there on the page to that person, right? So I think there is a lot more understanding and empathy that is involved in this case, right? So if you really look at it, you have a jazzy website, you have so much that you have designed for your customers, but how does a person with vision impairment see? That's what they see, right? If you understand that, the deeper you understand that, the deeper you will put that into the design of the system, right? So like, for example, you have a retail website, you have a bunch of categories, right? I, as a customer, want to shop for my choice, right? So I want to buy a pair of pants, I go and buy a pair of pants, right? Similarly, anybody would want to do the same thing, right? So if there is a challenge for me to find a particular product which is effective and quickly, that same challenge occurs to everyone, right? So irrespective of their whatever condition they have, right? So that is what should go into our design and not anything else, right? So that brings us to the point of what is compliance versus accessible. So when I started this journey about 16 years back, actually, we used to address accessibility because we were scared of lawsuits, right? So there were a lot of money that was involved in lawsuits, but then progressively what happened was we started using these tools. Now, are tools enough, right? Are they doing enough? Can you really put ourselves in everybody's shoes and think about this as a problem? So we ran a test in one of our programs, right? So we ran a bunch of tools, indicated it is 100% accessible, great, right? But what did some manual testing show? We engaged some real testers with real impairments, and we got a bunch of issues that we were able to discover, right? So that's what we really need to do, and we need to empathize, right? Now, how do we empathize? And how do we sort of propagate this across the organization, right? So again, I just coined this term LEAF. Don't Google it, you will not find anything there. But first you need to learn, right? So as an individual, like for example, as an engineering leader, I focus on a lot of learning, right? So I look at websites that we have not even designed, but for best practices that they happen to implement. And then you need to establish this and propagate awareness. So if you are doing something great in accessibility that has won awards for like real use cases, right? So people really getting benefited of something, we have a platform where we can share those experiences so that other programs can follow suit. And then if you look at our maturity model, right? So we have a way to assess our engineering maturity, and we have embedded accessibility as one of the core elements of measuring our maturity, right? Because we don't think we can change or we can design accessible systems without all of this. Lastly, if you look at focus, right? The notion of accessibility is also evolving. So we need to constantly learn, we need to propagate, we need some body that needs to constantly research and evolve and help the organization evolve along with it, right? And that's the COE we have. And the head of accessibility is a woman leader in our company, and she handles global accessibility, not just North America or India. She handles Europe, and we have a diverse set of team members that cater to a lot of this, like how do we effectively design accessible systems. And then most importantly, we have a champions program that helps create accessibility champions so that we can become more like better at it day after day. So with that, if you look at in practice what we have done, right? So I'm not going to focus on numbers. In general, it's not great to share numbers in this space because of some legalities, but in the manufacturing space, everybody can imagine, you know, some person who's disabled, people with disability driving some motor vehicles, right? But what we did was, when we were doing, creating a website for this automotive company, we also looked at how their support engineers in the manufacturing plants actually operate or fix certain issues, right? That got us thinking about the manuals that they are using. And we found out that there are people with disabilities unable to use mouse and those kind of things, right, that are actually operating on these manuals. So what we did was we digitized the entire thing, made it really accessible for all these audience, and that created a lot of, reduced a lot of friction, right? So in terms of them being able to service different parts of the vehicle effectively, and that had a huge impact on their culture as well. Now, if you look at banks, right, I want to go to an ATM to withdraw money, so does anyone else, right? So somebody on a wheelchair, consider this, right? So we have a great accessible, you know, ATM. It has voice, it helps people with vision impairments and so on and so forth, right? But the path you take to the ATM, if it doesn't have a ramp for a wheelchair person, you've lost the battle. So this is a case where we not only looked at just the digitization and the accessibility of that, we also raised some issues and awareness around how people get to the ATM, right? Not necessarily in our charter, but if you are empathetic, I think you start to think about it as an ecosystem more than anything else. So lastly, it's an airline major. Again, booking your seats these days, I think it's paramount importance. I think one of their leaders actually had this issue. They used to travel all the time, and they were not able to book their seats when they are on the go, right? Simply because they had a mobile version which was not accessible, and the person had problems with multi-touch. So that's what we did here, where we fixed that, not just considering the leader, but more considering the diverse set of people that are booking air travel, right? Which is like pretty much everybody. So those were 3 cases I wanted to share. And finally, in the AI space, there is no topic that ends without AI these days. So if you look at AI in itself, there is a lot of consideration on bias, right? So how many people think that bias is dangerous here? Everyone, right? So if you think bias is dangerous, I would say awareness of bias, absence of that awareness is even more dangerous, right? So I think our focus has been, how can we be aware of these biases, right? So one of the examples is, we are working with a pharmaceutical company, and invariably the data that we fed to the LLM generated responses that sort of alluded to the fact that women get more migraine than men, right? Now, how are you able to, as like an engineering person or an engineering leader, how am I able to recognize that, right? So that does not just involve software or code that you can fix, it's more organizational, right? So the reason I picked up bias was it has an influence on everything else that is there on the slide. So like, for example, data and training. So we often say we need diverse data, but are diverse people training your models, right? So that's a consideration. And then, is your team diverse enough? Are you bringing all the perspectives together? And finally, we have, as part of our accessibility, we also have data and bias awareness as part of our COE, and we have trainings around it to enable everyone to take advantage, and most importantly, be aware of this, right? Because there is also not a one-size-fits-all solution for this. every solution is unique, and people need to be more aware to be able to come up with those solutions. So I'll finally close by asking everyone to try this, right? So any of your favorite websites, please try this, let's say once a week. Take the no mouse challenge. Don't use your mouse. Try to navigate through all of your websites and see how good they are. And that will help you put yourself in another person's shoes that cannot use a mouse, right? So I think these kind of things, more experiential learning, is very important for us to design, effectively for accessible audience. Thank you. Any questions for us? We are out. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions, but thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank
We'll
you
be
so
around
much.
for lunch, so
yes.
we can take
So
questions.
please feel free to connect with the panelists. Please check out the listening booths that we have set up in the lunch area. We have DEI stories from persons from marginalized communities.